Once upon a time, in the small village lulled by the gentle murmur of the Talamo River, stood an ancient library built with stone and cedar wood called the Library of Dreams. It was a magical place where books seemed to breathe and whisper stories to those seeking refuge in its tranquil warmth. In charge of this sanctuary of knowledge and fantasy was Celio, a man of undefined age, with a white mane cascading like a waterfall of silver over his shoulders. His eyes, two deep and serene spheres, reflected the wisdom of countless stories read by moonlight. He had a perpetual smile, sober and welcoming, which, accompanied by his soft and measured voice, turned any tale into a lullaby for the soul. One night, as the moon hung low and full in the sky, emitting an ethereal glow, Valeria, a weary traveller, entered the library. With her chestnut hair tied in a bun and a gaze laden with countless sleepless moons, she sought an escape from a persistent insomnia. "Good evening, traveller," greeted Celio with his comforting voice. "In which dream can I tuck you in tonight?" She looked around, dazzled by the beauty of the tall shelves and the scent of old paper that filled the air. Vareya sighed and said, "I long for sleep, the one that eludes me, as if it were a delicate deer in a forest of restless thoughts." Celio nodded and walked to a corner partitioned by soft, blue velvet curtains, signaling her to follow. Behind the curtains was a cozy space with cushions scattered on the floor and a small mahogany table. On the table lay a collection of tomes, bound in leather, bathed in a soft golden light emitted by an antique lamp. "These are the tales of lost dreams," explained Celio. "Stories written to lure the reader into a sweet slumber." Vareya chose a book at random, its cover made of green leather with golden serpentine river engravings. She opened the pages and began to read. Her voice floated in the air, mingling with the magical ambience of the place. As she read, Celia watched as her tension melted from her shoulders, her breathing became more measured, and a gentle flicker began to claim her eyelids. Gradually, Vareya's narration faded into a barely audible whisper, and then, like the final flicker of a shooting star, it extinguished. Her head rested on one of the cushions, and a peaceful and joyful dream embraced her. Celio smiled. His mission had been accomplished once again. That library did not only shelter Valeria that night. Other characters, each with their unique needs, were scattered in its captivating corners. At the table near the large window, where the gentle night breeze fluttered, Gilberto, a writer with creative block, slowly flipped through a volume titled "The Muses of Dawn." With each page, ideas began to flow like clear water, releasing his mind from the dams of doubt and fatigue. At the other end, in a carved wooden rocking chair, an elderly woman named Coral caressed the pages of a favorite book, Lullabies for the Soul. The melody of the words cradled her memories, taking her back to the days when her mother, with a warm and gentle voice, lulled her to sleep. A young man named Raoul, with starry eyes and a poet's heart, sat on the floor surrounded by star maps and volumes of lyrical astronomy. He longed to travel the cosmos on the wings of dreams, escaping the constant buzz of the city he had left behind. As the night unfolded, like a delicate dark veil, Celio continued to move among his guests, arranging blankets, whispering encouraging words, and ensuring that each person found solace in the pages of the books he had given them. Eventually, the library filled with the synchronized sound of slow and deep breaths. Celio settled into his chair behind the counter, closed his eyes, and let the sweet scent of old books lead him to his own realm of dreams. The night advanced in silence, only occasionally interrupted by the soft creaking of wood adjusting or the distant hoots of an awake owl. The moon continued its journey across the sky, watching over the library and its dreamy inhabitants. At dawn, Celia woke with the first rays of sun filtering through the windows, bathing the library in a new and promising light. Valeria awoke almost simultaneously, her eyes gleaming with renewed brightness. "Thank you," she murmured, with a voice that seemed to sing. "I have sailed rivers of stars and rested on the moon. It truly is a library of dreams." Celio smiled. This was the gratitude that nourished his soul. "Return when dreams elude you," he said warmly. And so the library continued to be a beacon of hope and respite, a gateway of dreamlike worlds where everyone, in their own way, found serenity and comfort. The village gave it new names over the years, but for those who had experienced its magic, it would always be the Library of Dreams. One after another, wandering souls and weary minds entered and exited its doors. With each book they closed upon finishing, another chapter of calm and renewal began in their lives. Serio, our guardian of stories and chief dreamer, taught us that peace could be found on a page, in a sigh, in a moment shared with the words of others. And so the shelves of the Library of Dreams never ceased to fill, just like the hearts of those who found solace within its walls. Years passed, and although Celio one day left his place behind the counter, the library remained living and breathing through each generation that discovered and rediscovered its hidden charms. Valeria returned, not as the wandering shadow of insomnia, but as the guardian of that magical space. Her voice, now the lullaby for new souls in search of dreams, continued Celio's tradition, extending the invitation to immerse themselves in the serene slumber of never-ending stories. The village grew around the library, just as trees grow around an old and wise oak. The Library of Dreams was its beating heart, and on nights of the full moon, when the waters of the Talamo River whispered most intensely, it was said that you could hear the pages of old books turning by themselves in a symphonic hush. And so those who once considered themselves lost in wakefulness found in that sanctuary a safe harbor to set sail for the lands of Morpheus, guided by the light of words and the sound of a voice that, like a beacon, showed them the way home. In the Library of Dreams, the end of each story was only the beginning of a dream and the start of a respite for the wandering soul. Each whisper within its walls was a promise of peace.